So in this video, I'm going to try to make the case for why the self is an illusion by using a well-known paradox. But before we get started, I probably have to define two terms, the terms of qualitative identity and numerical identity. Qualitative identity is if two or more distinct objects have the same properties. So you could say that this pen is qualitatively identical to this pen because they are exactly alike. They are perfect copies of each other, but they are two different pens. Now you can also talk about strict and loose qualitative identity. So it might be that there are some slight differences between the two pens. One might have a little bit more ink in it than the other. But for most purposes, this isn't going to be relevant. So you can say that to a looser degree, a different amount of ink doesn't really matter and they're still qualitatively identical. But in a more stricter sense, they'd have to be exact copies. Opposed to that, we have numerical identity. Numerical identity is the relation an object has to itself and only itself. So we could be talking about my father or my grandfather's son, for instance. We're talking about the same person here. Or we could be talking about my mother or my brother's mother. Basically, we're just talking about the same thing or person from two different directions. Now, you might ask, well, what about personal identity over time? So am I now numerically identical to myself from when I started this video? Well, not a lot has changed. I might have the memory of starting the video, which of course I didn't have before I started the video. And maybe a few other things have changed, but I'm basically still the same person, right? The definition of numerical identity is somewhat ambiguous about this. It doesn't really tell us if it applies to personal identity over time as well. But it seems to me that most people would say that yes, it does apply to personal identity over time as well. But there is a problem with this. And this problem is best demonstrated by the paradox which is called the ship of Theseus. Now there are several versions of this paradox, but it goes something like this. Imagine you have a ship, and then for whatever reason you decide to replace one part of a ship. It might be a plank or a sail or maybe just a nail or something. You replace it with a qualitatively identical thing. Do you still have the same ship? Most people would answer that question with yes. What if you replace another piece of a ship though? Do you now still have the same ship? Most people would probably still say yes. But what if you were to repeat this over and over and over again until you had replaced every single part of a ship? Do you still have the same ship now? It looks the same, it operates the same, it is completely indistinguishable for the eye. Most people would probably say it's still the same ship. But now here's a problem. What if you were to take all the original pieces and put them together again? Wouldn't this be the original ship then? But now you've got two of them. Both of them apparently happen to be the original ship. Well, there's a problem there, isn't there? Now I want you to think about an alternative version of this same paradox. Imagine you had a person and you were to replace one single atom with a qualitatively identical atom. Surely you'd have the same person, wouldn't you? And let's say you do this over and over again until you've replaced every single atom in the body. Again, the physical appearance is exactly the same, the person reacts in the same way, has the same characteristics, the same memories. There's absolutely no way of distinguishing, but every single atom has been replaced with a qualitatively identical one. If you say that this is a different person, then the question becomes, at what point did this person become someone else? Is there a specific atom that if you replace this one specific atom makes it such that the person is now someone else? That seems somewhat silly, doesn't it? Maybe you'd say something like, well, the person has been changed a little bit with every atom that was replaced. But can you be a little bit someone else? I don't really think so. You're either a specific individual or you're not that specific individual. You can't be a little bit Trump or a little bit this person or that person or whoever. What happens if we now put all the original atoms together again? Well, now we've got two people who both think that they are you, essentially, but they're two different people. So what's going on? If you think that you can solve this mystery, write it down in the comments. But it seems to me that the idea of personal identity is just a nonsensical one. It seems to me that every creature that has sentience, that is conscious, always has this sensation of being themselves. But there's nothing about us that would make us us rather than anyone else. I don't think there's any soul, if you want to put it like that. You might just as well be someone else. Maybe another little thought for the end. What if you were replaced atom by atom into a different person? Like someone who would clearly be completely different to you in every way. Completely different appearance, completely different character, completely different body, whatever. Would that person be you? So that's it for today. I'm curious to know what you think about the thought experiment. Do you think that we have souls? Do you think that the self is an illusion? Write it down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon.